Welcome back to another episode of Andrew Says. This week, my guest, returning again, as I call him, Chad Too Bad, Chad Prather. How are you, good sir?
I'm good. It's good to see you, man.
You as well. Now, I do want to reference your book again. It sits on my shelf here in the office. It's still, to this day, one of the most cleverly written books. Am I Crazy? It's called. Has there been another book? Did I miss one? Is there talk about another book yet?
Yeah, well, I'm actually working on something to help people get their life right.
What does
We've
that
already
mean?
established that everybody's crazy. Now
Okay.
I'm going to try to put one out there and get everybody on the right track in this crazy world we're living in.
When are we looking at that coming out?
We'll see. It could be any time. I mean, literally within the next few weeks. So we'll see.
all
We'll
right.
see how it goes. But yeah, I'm probably this book. Actually, we're probably just going to give it away. Honestly, that's how important I feel like it is.
Well, it's really cool. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is something that came up last night and this morning, the Sports Illustrated cover. Now, I don't want to be too mean. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I have.
The Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Now, I noticed that on Instagram, if you try to comment anything, I told my friends, I was like, how much do you guys want to give me if I just comment the word fat? And if you try to do that, it stops you. It says this is flagged for comments similar to this, and it says, are you sure you want to post it? And we're at this point where just the most simple truth, and I know that's mean, and I know that nobody deserves that, but we're at this point where the simplest blunt truth is now being censored. And this isn't the first time Sports Illustrated has gone really weird. Like, where do you think they're getting this idea from, and where do you think it's going? Like, are they sustaining business based off this? Does it matter? Does their magazine sell? What do you think?
You know, I look at these things and honestly, to break it down, just it'd be as completely clear and as commonsensical as we can be on this. You know, in a situation like this, this is what happens when the pendulum swings completely the other way from the bully culture, right? So we have this idea that no one should ever be persecuted, be oppressed for anything. They should never be bullied. You know, everybody should live in a perpetual safe space, okay? So that we fight against any form of victimization to the point where you can't even tell the truth anymore because that truth may offend somebody and therefore be perceived as bullying or victimizing. Now, this is Sports Illustrated. This is the same magazine that puts out the body issue every year that glorifies the athletic form. Historically speaking, the swimsuit issue is another variation of that, which was started to sell swimsuits, right? I mean, you know, every time you'd open up the swimsuit issue, they would talk about who the designer of the swimsuit was and where you could get the swimsuit and so on and so forth. And obviously, you know, us young adolescent boys had other intentions in regards to that. But when you look at this, you have to realize obesity is a health issue. It's not glorifying the athletic form. This is not an homage to sport. This is something that is saying, we dare you to speak out against this. We dare you to call this what it is, because now we have a label and we can put you in that box. You are a fat shamer. But let's face it, if you took that girl's blood work on the front of that magazine, you took that girl's blood work. 3 weeks ago, I went and had blood panels done to find out all the things that are wrong with me. We should all do these things. I promise you, it's going to come back with a number of deficiencies. It's going to come back with elevated levels. This is not an image of health. This is not a paragon or an example whereby we should emulate. This is something that we should call out for the sheer hypocrisy of it. Because let's face it, if you were to put out a magazine that put fat men on the front of it and said, you know, the farmer's diary or whatever, and these guys, and you get my point. This thing would be the ultimate in parodies. But when Sports Illustrated does this, then you're not allowed to speak out. As a father of 3 daughters, and 5 kids, I want those kids to be as healthy as possible. I don't want them getting their body image or their self-image or their sense of self-worth from Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues. But come on, culturally, we know that this becomes a problem when we can't even talk about health issues without being called persecutors.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this a lot. You mentioned the health stuff. I'm seeing this a lot across the board with many fitness related things. I'm seeing commercials from, I think it's Apple Watches or Fitbits, where they're showing not just, I mean, I'll call myself fat myself, but we're seeing morbidly obese people as an example of health in the media. There's that one woman they had, I think it's a British model, and they say she's struggling with anorexia and she's like 500 pounds. And it's this weird nexus of the universe we've come to where you're right, where you can't even speak even on Instagram without it being like flagged as a warning. And you'll see all the comments are limited to, oh, this is amazing. Oh, white men are going to have a problem with it. Of course they are. Problem with everything. But I wonder if you're a child growing up in this and you're going to see no problem with 400 pounds, 500 pounds, and you're like, this is celebrated. Nobody can tell you that I'm unhealthy. Nobody can tell me that I'm going to be unattractive or die at 40. It's really troubling stuff. And I'm not going to be the one who's going to go out and say, you know, let's put anorexic models in there. Let's put ultra unrealistic people in there. But there is a line. And I always thought that some part of it was to try to strive to be your best. And especially in a sports magazine, it's like, are you going to have like a 250-pound cyclist on the cover of Cycling magazine or something? Like, you're not going to do the sport that you want to do if you're taking this as an example. And that's just my mean take of the day, I guess. I guess it's mean now to point out the obvious.
Because, again, people say you're criticizing somebody or shaming somebody for their appearance. That's not the case. That's not the situation. This the hypocrisy that we are calling out. I would say the exact same thing to your point. If they had an 80-pound model who was suffering from anorexia, I would say this person needs to get some help. We all are, we all have physical flaws, and we all need to work on those things. I'm not going to parade my bad habits or parade my, the things that I need to work on in my life, whether they're mental, psychological, physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever they be. I'm not parading those out there and say this is the example that people need to emulate.
Yeah, it's really interesting, especially if you look at something like smoking, which has pretty much been eliminated from, Hollywood. And there's some things where they have period pieces where they allow it, but that is looked at something that's extremely unhealthy and was meant to be taken out of everything. You can't advertise cigarettes in Canada. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah. What you could certainly advertise cheeseburgers and everything else. And I'm saying it should all be allowed because, are we going to start? Where's the smoking magazine on the cover? Where's the Sports Illustrated with a guy just with a big cigar or somebody smoking 10 pages of them smoking each cigarette? I don't know. It all comes down to censorship with me. And I think they want to control. It doesn't even matter what it is. It could be fat people. It could be smoking. As long as they're controlling what you can say, I think that's the point here. And I want to kind of parlay that into asking you about this new Twitter leak. Have you had a chance to see that yet with this Twitter engineer and Project Veritas?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and and for those who don't know, we'll put it in after, but this is a senior engineer at Twitter, and we've seen this stuff before from Project Veritas, but it always it's out of context. But this guy's literally saying, we're all communists there. I came there, became communist. We don't treat it like a capitalist company. We do whatever we want. And he even says he's worked 4 hours a week the last quarter. Now, I don't know any job where you can work 4 hours a week and still be hired. People could come in and out as if they feel too stressed out. They can take a few days off here and there. That sort of paint the picture as to why Twitter is the way it is, do you think?
Well, I think they're saying the quiet things out loud. We know that this is the reality. I work for BlazeTV, right? I'm with a conservative-leaning, pardon me, independent broadcaster. There's no doubt that we have conversations behind closed doors, amongst our friends about the way we want our individual programming to go and the way we want to handle our content and our shows. And we're no question, we will talk about being, conservative in the way that we lean in our opinions and in our, so I have no question that these folks have the same thing. They're going to talk about their ideologies. They're going to talk about their leanings, both politically and culturally. And so when it comes out, we tend to be shocked, like, oh my God, I can't believe they're saying these things. Well, of course they're saying these things. That's who they are. It's how they are. They fight for, socialistic, values. They fight for censorship. They're scared to death of an Elon Musk that may come in there and turn things in a different direction. I mean, look, I saw 40,000 new followers in 2 days once the announcement was made. It was almost like people were shredding paper because the new boss was coming in. And so now we're seeing it. We know it's happening. I love that, James O'Keefe and the folks over at Veritas continue to reveal these things. Will anything happen because of it? No, there's no consequences, because we know that leftists don't suffer consequences. They really don't. So we'll see what happens with this, but I hope it's spread far and wide and people begin to understand the reality of it.
Well, what I've heard, and I don't know how much of this is true, is that there was an agreement when Elon agreed to purchase it, that there was only around 5 to 10% bots. And now they're saying that it's upwards. I've heard everything from 15 to 20% to upwards of 40%. And they're really worried that they're going to have to pay this huge penalty, I think, for a breach of contract or something like that. Do you still hope that he takes it over, or do you think it matters?
I hope he does. I hope he does for the sheer entertainment value of it. When the announcement was made, those particular 2 days that weekend, that was the most fun I'd had on social media in 3 years. So, my good friend Sarah Gonzalez just trolled it. I mean, it was amazing, the things that she posted, just staccato machine gun fire tweets of things that historically would have gotten you banned. It was a lot of fun to watch the reactions.
Right, that was her.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, if it was only 5% bots, then all 5% are on my page. I can tell you that, because I get trolled all day, every day. I'm at a point now where it's like, I don't have time to waste with this incessant nonsense, so I just block it and move on. They tend to show back up, but I hope he takes it over. Again, I have said this for years. I've said that if you build something philosophically, ideologically, you build this house of cards, the slightest wind of common sense will eventually blow it down, because it's on a faulty fault line. The structure and foundation of it's built wrong, and it's a weak structure to begin with. So I think that a lot of things are being exposed. Look, I sued Facebook back in late February and won. I am the first and only person to sue Facebook and win in the state of Texas. And so we've had numerous court battles with Facebook over various issues of things that they try to do. And you basically sign your life away whenever you agree to their terms and conditions. You're agreeing to let them dictate to your life on how you're going to operate on that platform. And it's very difficult and slippery slope. This is big tech tyranny. We know it's there. We've seen it in action. It's only going to get worse as we move forward and continue to rely on social media platforms. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But hopefully these exposures are going to continue to bring these things down.
What was this lawsuit with Facebook? What was that over?
So they banned me for an old comment in response to someone from a long time ago. Of course, I was running in the primary election here in the state of Texas. They gave me a 7-day suspension just 8 days before Election Day. So we were able to take them to court on the basis of a bill that was signed by Governor Greg Abbott in February of 2021 in terms of censorship for conservatives in the state of Texas. And we were actually able to get a ruling in our favor, get the restrictions and the ban lifted. Sounds like a minor deal, but it was really pretty major, and Facebook took a loss that they did not like. So they've consistently been back in court with us trying to get that loss overturned. So, the thing is, and nobody wants to talk about that in the media because, again, big media, big tech, they walk hand in hand with one another. They don't want people knowing that you can fight people for things like common carriage laws and so on and so forth. And on the basis of information and economic trade, to be able to shut somebody's voice down is a bad policy to be in action here in America.
Yeah, I think that is a big deal. And the reason they're probably trying to overturn it, in my opinion, is so that the precedent can't be set that says, hey, you can't all say, probably purposely shut somebody down before an election happens to try to stifle their influence online. We've seen it with other people. And it's very interesting with the bots, I think, because you have, especially on Twitter, you have complicated bots and you have very non-complicated ones. I think I'm pretty good at sniffing them out, as I think a lot of people who are on it a lot are. But you have, Bob 335678 with no photo. That's a pretty obvious one. But then it goes as far as ones that have had accounts. I don't know if they buy them or they just farm these bots for years. But you can kind of tell that, it's suspicious. But one of the first things you look at is how long they've been on the platform. But then you get like message requests of, hey, how are you? Nobody says, hey, how are you? That's what they need to learn about the bots when you guys are making them. Nobody says, hey, how are you? I want to get to know you. That's probably what happened to Eric Swalwell, I think. A little bit more complicated there. Something I saw you tweeting about, which I've been thinking about a lot lately, is the new press secretary. And, we're all going to miss Jen Psaki. We're going to all watch her on MSNBC. That's going to be a great show for no one to watch, because only people watch Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. But now the first thing, Chad, that they talk about with this new press secretary as she comes in is she's the first, I don't know what the announcement she made. I'm the first black immigrant lesbian woman, the first of all three. And this is so important, not my accomplishments. The first thing that we talk about is this person's, ethnic or diversity-based accomplishment. Why is that?
I don't care if you're a Jawa from Tatooine. I want to know art. Are you able to put together a sentence? Are you able to think with complexity of thought? Are you able to articulate policy? Are you able to talk about the things that the White House represents and is doing? She has so far in the last 36 hours proven incapable of doing that. We now know why Jen Psaki was at least smart enough to corner the phrase, I'll circle back. That was her way of saying, I don't know. I'm not sure this lady has the wherewithal to know when she doesn't know something based on some of the stuff, based on some of the things that I've seen.
There we go.
There we go. We're back.
Yep.
I love technology. But yeah, we'll see. This girl, I don't think she's overly intelligent. Look, we've seen already with the Biden administration continually put people up because of their physical characteristics, whether it's, the Levine person, all. I mean, these folks that are it's just crazy. Like it's a clown car, and you don't know who else is going to step out in regards to this. You don't realize any of their qualifications. Because that's not what they're talking about. Even Jen Psaki, upon introducing her, said, these things matter. These characteristics matter. They don't. They really don't.
I know. It's really weird. I was listening to a podcast this morning on the way in of a UFC fighter, and I won't name him because I think he's a good guy. But he was talking about how, diversity has a huge role to play in all of his decisions, in the school he chose for his family, in his social gatherings. He's talking about, how great it is that there's so many I don't even know what the word he used, mixed families. And I'm just like, why does this matter to you? Shouldn't it matter if the people are good, if the schools are good, if the town is good? And it's a town I think you'd be familiar with, too. I don't want to out this guy, though. He's nice. But it's just really weird to me when people focus on these things. And when you trot somebody out and the first thing is, look at her race and her gender, everybody. I think that's a sign that this person probably isn't qualified. Or else you'd be saying, look at their degree in this and look at their experience doing this. If you put a person on the moon, you're not going to want to know about whether or not they're from Texas or Louisiana. You're going to know if there's an astrophysicist or a scientist or an Air Force pilot. I don't think that's going to be coming in handy if it's something other than that. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about Peter Doocy from Fox News? I think he was getting some heat. I'm not sure how much legitimacy it had to it, but I saw some people saying like he's hugging Jen Psaki after she leaves, and they're good. They got along. I guess they didn't actually hate each other. Do you think that's a good idea? To still be able to talk to somebody who's they're probably so far opposite in their belief system? Do you think it's a good idea for them to still show that they can get along, or do you think it sort of means that they don't actually disagree with one another?
Look, I've been saying for the last year they're probably hooking up behind the scenes, right? Who knows? I say that tongue in cheek with all due respect to, a guy like Ducey. And I say respect because at least he is a guy who asks questions that are serious and not softball stuff to this administration. Look, they should get along. Of course they should get along. They don't have to agree with each other. Look, 2 weeks ago, I had my friend Riaz Patel on my show on The Blaze. Look, Riaz is an executive producer, 2-time Emmy Award nominee. He was born in a Muslim family. He is an immigrant. He's in Hollywood. He's gay. He's a liberal. I mean, he checks all those boxes of everything that a white heterosexual Christian conservative cowboy should disagree with, right? But whenever we're together, we have the best conversations. We don't agree on many, many things, but we still have the best conversations. Of course you should be able to get along. That's what America's about, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, go back and read the things they said to and about each other. Our history is made with the disagreements and the debacles of discouragement that were created out of these disagreements that happened, but yet our founding fathers were able to come back together. And do I put Peter Ducey and Jen Psaki on level with our founding fathers? No, but American civility does need to still exist. Not even American, cultural civility amongst free people definitely needs to exist.
I think anybody can look back and say, wow, Kayleigh McEnany was really good at her job, even if you disagreed with her. So I'll have to agree with you on that point.
Your point, I was thinking that exact same thing. I don't think Jen Psaki is dumb. I think she's woke to an ideology that's dumb, which leads her down a wrong path. I think this girl is going to prove, like, she might beat Scaramucci's record. She might be out of there. Okay. But it makes you realize just how sharp a Sarah Sanders or a Kayleigh McEnany really, truly were and are in terms of their preparedness and their ability to communicate policy.
When she put her hand on the binder, on the tab that she was about, that was the warning sign. And again, even if you disagree with her, she was like the girl in school who always had her project done like 3 weeks before it was due. It was amazing stuff. Something I read about yesterday that I wrote down to ask you about was the Ultra MAGA thing. And my friend and I were talking about this, and he was reading me this article. I think it was from Daily Mail, UK. And they were saying that the Ultra MAGA slogan that Biden trotted out was 6 months in planning. Did you read about this?
I did.
Yeah, 6 months in planning. I wrote it down. Center for American Progress, which of course is one of those. We're one step away from Media Matters there, and 6 months to come up with Ultra MAGA, and now he's calling him the MAGA King and all these things. It's like, do you really believe that this is what they came up with in 6 months? We're gonna get him. We're gonna stick him with this. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
You would think that they would learn from Hillary Clinton calling conservatives a basket of deplorables, how far that will backfire on you. Because people with common sense, people like you and me, we take that terminology and we run with it. I mean, do you know how many T-shirts I've sold in the last week at watchchad.com or prathertees.com that say Ultra MAGA? We even have a shirt that looks like the Michelob can that says MAGA Ultra with the little label on it. We've got MAGA King shirts. We've got MAGA King hats coming out. These people are dumb. I mean, you have to know better than to give us a moniker that we're going to run with. I mean, look what we did with Let's Go Brandon. I mean, that one little slip of the lip got her hung by the tongue culturally. We're not going to let go of any of this stuff. And so people want to call us a cult. My friend CJ and I, we do this. We do these little songs together from time to time, post on social media. We just did Bow Down to Your MAGA King. People lose their mind. We do these songs and we sing them, and people are like, you guys are such a cult. I'm like, we're trolling you. I mean, how do you not understand the self-defacing, self-efficating, humor that we use just demonstrates that we're not dictated to by your labels. It's not going to change anything. So I love that they came out with it.
Yeah, and there's even more MAGA King songs or Ultra MAGA songs. And I think you're right. I think things are so polarized, it's so easy to troll these days. Last week I did a thing where I said if Elon comes back on Twitter or Elon takes over Twitter, I'm moving to Canada. In my bio, it says where I am and who I work for. We don't want you here. We don't want you woke leftists coming and ruining our country any more than it already is. It's gotten easier to troll people because nobody does anything but react right away. And I'm glad you're making sales with that shirt. I'd be interested in getting one, and I think that's what you have to do. It's something I take from like Barstool Sports, that once something's out there, pick it up, run with it, because the football is only going to be on the field for a little while in that sense, and you got to capitalize on it, and I'm glad you're doing that. I want to talk to you about one more hilarious article behind the paywall, so you guys are going to have to subscribe to get that, rebelnewsplus.com. It's cheaper than Netflix. It's cheaper than Amazon. You have no choice but to sign up. One more segment with Chad Prather, and all the other episodes, you get an extra segment there. See you guys next week. Thanks for watching another episode of Andrew Says. To get the full version of the show with bonus segments, go to rebelnewsplus.com and sign up now.